Hi, Gary Port with NY Divorce Facts, here with Matcha, Azuki, and of course the Teals, Kosho, and Yuzu. You know, it's sort of funny when it comes around time for bedtime. Matcha is great. He goes right into his cage. Azuki plays a little hard to get, and then as I'm closing the cage door, Matcha grabs it with his beak and he shuts it because he wants to always be the one to shut. It's pretty funny. And the Teals, they play hard to get for about half an hour before they finally give up and go in. Apropos particularly nothing, I just thought it's kind of funny to talk about that. I get a lot of phone calls about pensions. In a divorce, a pension is probably the most important asset that there is. And I get a lot of calls about NYPD pensions. The police pensions are kind of interesting, so I decided to do a video to discuss them a little bit. The New York City police pension has three components. You've got your regular pension, the one where if you retire and then you keep breathing, they'll keep paying you money. Then there's the deferred compensation, and then the variable supplemental fund. The variable supplemental fund is if you do your 20 or more years, in December of every year, NYPD will give you $12,000. Now, there's also the sergeant's benevolent and detective benevolent, but the rules are pretty much the same for that. Let's talk about the pension first. In order to divide a pension in a divorce, it's very simple. We take the number of months of marriage and we divide that by the number of months on the job. That gives us the marital coverture. Pretty simple. And then the spouse gets half of that. So let's give an example. Let's say 20 years of marriage with 20 years of overlapping police service. The number is 100%. The spouse gets 50%. But let's say the spouse was only married for 10 years of overlapping police service. Then you've got 10 divided by 20, or 50%. In that case, the spouse only gets 25%. Very simple. And that calculation is the same with the variable supplemental fund. The deferred compensation is a little more complex. We take the value of the deferred compensation on the day of marriage, and then we pretend that nothing was added at all during the marriage itself. So let's say, for example, $100,000 was in the deferred comp on the day of marriage. Now again, we pretend nothing else happened to that, and we've traced that $100,000 through gains and losses. And let's say during the course of the marriage that $100,000 becomes, say, $400,000. Okay? At the time of divorce, let's now say that the total amount in the deferred compensation is $600,000. We know that that 100 grew into 400. So we take that 400 out, leaving us 200 left. That 200 is split 50-50. The spouse gets 100, the service member gets 100, plus the 400 from before. That's how we split that. Pretty simple. Now, I know some of you were asking, well, what about disability in 3/4? Great question. We have a rule in New York that when there is a pension based upon pure disability, that is not marital property. But when you've got a pension based partially on disability and partially on time, well, some of that is going to go into the marital pot. With 3/4, well, first thing we know in 3/4, we lose the variable supplemental fund. That's gone. So what we do is we take the half, the 50%, and we divide that in the marriage. The remaining 25%, that 50 to 75% for the 3/4, that is purely the police officer's money. That is not part of the marital estate. So someone goes out on 3/4, we lop off that top 25%, we just look at the 50%, and then we run the same rules that we just did before. Number of months of marriage, number of months on the force, divide that in half, and there you have it. That's how we divide New York City police pensions in a divorce into New York. If you have any questions, give me a call, 516-352-2999. At Port and Sava, I'll help you get on with the rest of your life.